Okay, sample 9. Aquarius. Aquarius sun in the first house. Her Saturn goes direct, it's just going direct. Her Jupiter is just going direct. And they're both conjunct. So Jupiter, Saturn is conjunct. So if Saturn just goes forward, it doesn't quite get up to, won't get out of Capricorn. It won't get to conjunct the Sun. So Saturn doesn't come that far. But the Jupiter will come up, it'll conjunct this. It conjuncted the Saturn in 74. It went forward in 2019, this summer. Now, the Jupiter just changed into Aquarius. Wow, that's a whole new dawning of understanding. The Jupiter coming up to finding her purpose in life, understanding it in a new way. Like kids are grown, things are happening, something new is happening. It's her turn to do. Maybe she starts teaching. Maybe she starts using her astrology more. Maybe she starts reaching out. Certainly, I think she's working on a spiritual center. And you can see that the Jupiter coming, her understanding is clicking in clearly and positively, where it's been maybe perhaps a little more inhibited before, until then. Capricorn rising, Saturn and the Sun in the first house. Saturn ruling both the Sun and Mercury and Jupiter there too. It's all cautious. So these things, timing comes later. So her astrology, she studied with me a long time ago and is studying again now. Studied with me in the 90s and is studying through this now. And it's just connecting. Sometimes you get the information, it sits there and you work on it and it comes back with the Jupiter going over her Sun. This is a really nice connection to adding the new learning and having the teachers and understanding differently. And it conjuncts the Sun in October 2020, which is nice. It's going into Aquarius now, but it hits the Sun, it builds up till next summer. Our classes are only going to the end of the year. But it's just like passing a baton or passing something on, it's just coming on. But this is, yeah, it is what it is. Everybody has their own unique little pattern of these two things. Her Saturn's done the work and her Jupiter is going along benefiting from it. But it doesn't mean there weren't struggles about responsibility, what was or what wasn't. Jupiter Saturn is a lucky aspect. It means you have, especially in Capricorn, Saturn rules, responsibilities rule. I know I have to do this, have to do this. So it seems like a curse in a way. But eventually, the wisdom from the responsible understanding of Jupiter, understanding Saturn and what has to be done, grows and will grow up and it's building up to her Sun and her confidence. So she gets better as she gets older. It never comes up to square her Mercury, or to square her, to touch her Mercury-Neptune square. Then it's her understanding blossoms on its own. And she's got that Aquarius. So like, maybe she puts a book together. Maybe certainly she's at the beginning of waking up and starting big new things. Her understanding is clicking in a powerful comprehension of her purpose in her life, as opposed to whatever purposes were before. That's just a closer look at these ones. See, if the Saturn would come up and come right on top of the Sun, that would have been a somewhat inhibiting factor, delaying a little bit. The Saturn stops and the Jupiter moves on. That's a much more positive. The last part of the life is going to be much better than the first part. But you could say that for Capricorn rising. You could say that for Aquarius Sun. It tends to be better as you get older, the Saturn rulership. Okay. Yeah, we're going a little bit long, but we're near the end now, anyway, so not too bad. Maybe half an hour longer. Maybe a little bit less. We'll see. So here we have another Sun in the first house in Libra. Libra rising, Sun in the first, Libra, Venus on the ascendant. That's sweet. Nice. But the Moon and the ascendant Venus oppose the Moon. So there's some struggle there. How much do I have to work to get what I want? But the Sun, Mercury is intelligent and smart. It's squaring Saturn and Jupiter. Saturn-Jupiter conjunction again. 61. And so as we get to this, her Saturn is going to go along and it's going to square the Sun, square the Mercury, conjunct the Jupiter, square the Mercury, and then go into Aquarius. And the Jupiter's not backing up into this. The Jupiter is going to go square. It's going to square the Mercury. It's going to square the Mercury, not the Sun. It's all squaring at the start. We're just moving away from it. It's going to move into Aquarius and move on. And it's not till 2033 that it hits Neptune. Puzzle around Neptune, around faith, around understanding, belief, and then hopefully not around debt or gambling or anything, but it's still just that Neptune, the Jupiter hits the Neptune, and then it hits the Mars in 2047. And by 2052, it goes into his 5th house. So these are Saturn and Jupiter in the 4th house, about security, about where he's living, about family, where he's living. And these are just the changes that come along in this. But this is where Jupiter and Saturn are interwoven with each other. But in the previous one, Saturn went and Jupiter came and benefited after the Saturn. Here, the Saturn goes along and squares everything. But it's really finished the squares by by 2034. Let's see, by 2023, the last square of the Saturn to the Mercury. I put the dates. 21 it squared the Sun. 23 it squared the Mercury. 34 it goes into Aquarius. Okay, that's the Saturn. But the Jupiter starts in the Capricorn 74. It squared the, I think 74. It squared the Mercury, and then went into the Aquarius. And 33 it squares the Neptune, the Jupiter. So that's a puzzle because you have your understanding, and Neptune, there's choices or puzzles around what's right or what's wrong around it. With Pluto, aspects of Pluto is going to be understanding runs into contradiction. What's true or not here, it's what's believable or not. Okay. Like I said, it's your story. You're going to see them. It's there. It's organized. You're going to go over these. And once you see it, it's going to be whirring around in you for years. And as you watch them happen, they become yours. So here's the next 2 or 3 years. His Saturn's 21, 23, 34. His Saturn's hitting his Mercury and his Sun. He's judging what he's doing. He's going to be a little strict on himself, what he's doing, where he's doing, what he's doing. As a caution, but his Jupiter doesn't do that. Jupiter, by the time he's finished with that, Jupiter is opening up to new options. Even though it's square Neptune, it's moving along, it's moving forward into Aquarius. So here, look at commitments, understanding of astrology, commitments to astrology, Saturn building up. He's learning it deep. Whether he makes it a career or not, it's not as important as his learning it and going on and working with it. Okay. Last 3. Donald Trump. Okay, so Donald Trump, we can see his, here we go, let's pull it up a bit more here. Okay, his Jupiter, 2nd house, Jupiter and Neptune, the 2nd house. Neptune squares the Mercury. That's his deceptive or confusing thinking. Jupiter squares the Saturn, which is a good sense of timing in business usually. It's not happening now. Anyways, he has his Jupiter just goes direct. It goes to Libra, ruled by Venus, money, understanding, values. In 97, it went into the 3rd house. And in 16, it squared Saturn. Jupiter squared Saturn. 2016. In 2027, it squares Venus. So his Jupiter understanding, that's his in his squaring the Saturn is his assessment of the, like that's his getting elected. You know, the run into the elected, the Jupiter coming in, hitting his Saturn. I'm going to take this on. I didn't think I was going to get it. He got it. You know, his understanding was understanding commitments. He's certainly going to learn from the stance he's taken, really fundamentalist right-wing point. It's not the only way to think. It's going to run into some other extremes. But the Jupiter to Saturn still means he's in control of power. He's in authority. He's putting his understanding out, however it's approved or not. But by the time that Jupiter moves along to square the Venus, and that'll hit there in 27, that's still 8 years away. There's a lot of confusion starting from about, it's going to be 5 years before that, from 22 till 30 something. He's going to have a lot of confusion of how he's using money and what his resources are. Confusion, understanding, misunderstanding. Waste, he could spend too much. It's a square. It's not likely going to gain too much. There'll be repercussions coming in. He has to understand the repercussions of what he's used his money for, or his resources, or what values he had. Like, you could see it just mundanely, but what happens if one of the kids marries someone from another culture? Or he did, even though he's really anti-other cultures, or appears to be. This is your understanding developing. And Saturn starts in Cancer. It goes up in 1962. It was conjunct his Venus. So in 62, he's born in 46. So 62, he's 14. He was feeling not, I don't want to have money. He was feeling controlled and not appreciated, not loved, not liked, and got a very strong inhibition around his values. And the Saturn went forward from there and pushed forward through 11 years. I've got to make money. I've got to make money. So that was a very formative time when Saturn hits Venus. He decided what he wants or what he didn't want. He didn't want to be bored or whatever. But at the same time, even in his building his resources, he built hotels. The 11th house, he built hotels where other people are coming and spending money, even though he lost some along the way. But it goes up in 2007, Saturn went into this 12th house, into Leo, into the 12th house. And it'll just go a few degrees into Leo. But that being in the 12th house, you could say, well, he's famous for knowing, but it's going in the 12th, so he's not going to get respect for what he's done. One way he's president, he's the top of it all, but it has a shadow under that going into the 12th house. I mean, lots of other planets. We've seen the Saturn, the responsibility building, it's not getting a stronger sense of responsibility. It's getting more isolated, or more the repercussions of it being in the 12th house. Or need to work on things on oneself, within oneself. Yeah, so nothing overly concluding around it, but you just get little attitude. You slow it down, think about it, you put it against his timeline, you see what's going on, it'll begin to make more and more sense. Every planet has its own story. You just have to slow it down, look at one at a time. This was just a closer up point of the timings of the Saturn. Saturn going to Leo, and it's Jupiter. Okay, I'm not going to stay here. I'm getting late, and I'm going to